And who doesn't want more in retirement? I think that's what we're all hoping for, is a great, successful retirement. And we need a little help along the way to kind of do the nuts and bolts of that, and the pluses and the minuses and all the figures that go along with that. And that is why we have this show. Hello, my name is Randy Cook, along with Marc Osler. This is the Marc Osler Retirement Experience. Marc, how are you doing today?
I'm fantastic, Randy. I'll tell you, it has been cold recently, so I'm just trying to get used to it. Maybe I should move to Florida.
Along with every other retiree, right? Yeah, we've actually had some snow flurries already. It's kind of nutty. So, but yeah, the cooler weather is certainly here, but it kind of, at this time of the year, it goes back and forth. You'll get 30 in the morning, and then the next day it'll be 70. So it's a little bit weird, but we go with it. And we are here on the radio each and every week to talk a little bit about your retirement and some of the questions that you might have. And sometimes we dive deep. We dive deep into the financial realm. Today we're going to do just that by talking about Oreos. Okay. All right. The reason I bring this up is I love me some Oreos. Are you an Oreo guy? I like some double stuffed, and now they got even more. It's getting ridiculous. Your Oreo cookie sometimes can look like a Dagwood sandwich sometimes. Do you have a favorite Oreo there, Marc?
Oh, yeah. So I just make it clear. I know folks say, oh, well, those thin and crispy ones, though, they're really good and everything. No.
Not enough.
It has to be at least a standard Oreo. I love double stuffed, and I have had mega stuffed before.
Oh, my gosh. Those things are huge.
They're huge.
They're ridiculous. Well, here's the thing, is if you go to the Oreo section at the grocery store, you're going to see almost every week now something different. They come out with a special flavor, a birthday cake or a tiramisu or a chocolate caramel Oreo. And our job, we do this at work, is if you see one of those packages, you got to buy one, and then you bring it to work, and then we all try them, and we rate them. And now we keep a list of how many we've had. We have now had 39 different kinds of Oreos.
Wow. What's in first place?
I'm kind of the guy. I kind of like lemon. I'm a lemon guy. I kind of like the lemon ones. I like those, and anything that's salted caramel, I kind of like that as well. But here's what Oreo is doing this year. You may see this, is they're going to put them in a tin. It's not going to be the regular plastic package. It'll be a tin, and it'll look like an Oreo. And inside the tin, there will be 12 cookies for $20. Okay. And the cookies are going to taste like a Thanksgiving meal. So for $20, you can have Thanksgiving. So imagine this. You have an Oreo cookie that tastes like turkey and gravy. Another one that tastes like sweet potatoes. Another that tastes like cream corn. Oh, my God. The apple caramel pie Oreo cookie, the pumpkin pie, and the cranberry sauce cookie. Are you in, Marc? Would you try this?
I'm thinking I'm going to try 5 out of 6. I just don't think I could get down with turkey and gravy as an Oreo.
Or cream corn.
Cream corn even. Maybe to have some sweetness, but it's going to be a strange flavor.
Oh, God. Okay. One time on the radio, we had somebody come in, and there's a company called Jones that makes soda. And they had a 6-pack of a Thanksgiving meal, and one of them was green bean casserole soda. I was like, it's green. And I took it. I don't think I still have got that taste out of my mouth.
Oh, I love green bean casserole.
Me
but
too.
Soda?
I don't think so.
Gosh.
Oh, my God. Sometimes the idea seems good, but the execution doesn't really work out so well. And that's really where I want to go with this, because, Marc, you talk to people all the time getting ready for retirement, and there's a lot of places to put your money. Are there some things that you can think of that are kind of like this? They sound good on the outside. The marketing is great, but the execution or the taste of it in retirement might not be so good.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is right up my alley.
Okay.
I mean, I know you want to talk about some possibilities here. We bring up target funds. That's one of them right there. I know we discussed this in the past too. Obviously, the closer you are to the year of the target fund, the more conservative the fund is. Mm-hmm. And the further out you push it, the more aggressive it can be. But is it necessarily the best proper asset allocation? No. All of these things are very restrictive. You're talking about 401k plans. And so anytime somebody's in a 401k, whatever funds you might have available, maybe it's managed by Vanguard. That's not so bad. But I'll say this. ultimately, if you want some good, proper asset allocation, this is definitely a subject we can have, a conversation we can have in my office. I would love to discuss that with you. I don't think they're as efficient with target date funds. Now, we talk about other things. Let's just bring up the V word. I'm not a big fan of these, okay? They're called variable annuities.
Okay.
Now, you say, why am I not a big fan? Well, let me share with you. Let me kind of explain how the business works. So I started as an insurance producer, and I believe in insurance products. Mm-hmm. So I believe in fixed annuities, fixed index annuities, multi-year guarantee annuities. I believe in life insurance, which would be on the whole life or universal life or index universal life. So all of those are regulated by the insurance department. They're regulated by the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, all of that. It's a true insurance product. When you get into a variable annuity, you're actually regulated under the laws of FINRA. It's a little different. And so that just means what? It means that comes from a different side of the business. When we're doing brokerage money in our office, I work with a registered investment advisor firm. I'm an investment advisor representative. And so clearly what we want to do is we want to operate on the brokerage side. That's a fiduciary standard of care. And then when we're not doing those things, we like to use real insurance products. A lot of times when you're working with the other side of the business, a broker-dealer versus a registered investment advisor, there's a difference. A lot of times the broker-dealers, they have agents, and these registered representatives will work, and they like to use variable annuities. The difference is they're not a true insurance product. So when a person does a variable annuity, maybe they got into something that was close to what they would consider a variable annuity called a registered index-linked annuity. Well, that's just another fancy term for another variable annuity with what we call buffering, which provides protection. But I'm just going to tell you this. If you got a variable annuity, come on in, let's have a conversation, because they're not the most efficient products, and that's just simply because most of the time, not all the time, most of the time, they're riddled with fees. Mm-hmm. So it's always a good conversation to have. And then we're talking about long-term care insurance. Maybe you have traditional long-term care insurance because you got in early. Fantastic. Maybe you did the buy-it provisions where maybe you didn't want to keep paying for it, but you have a benefit that's still available to you. Fantastic. If you don't necessarily have to go about it that way anymore. Things have changed quite a bit. There's a lot of hybrid products out there. There are actual long-term care annuities. There are long-term care life insurance types of policies. You have to have a long-term care insurance license to do those. But then the standard ones, there could be living needs benefits. They don't call them long-term care because they provide living needs benefits in the case that a person can't perform certain activities of daily living. So in terms of efficiency, Randy, there's a lot of things we could do differently here from an efficiency standpoint.
I think that one of the things about this show and about Marc that I really like is, he showed you kind of the way that he can go at your retirement from a lot of different directions. There's markets. And when we talk about markets, we'll use words like equities. We'll use words like stocks, and we'll use words like risk, because stuff that's in the market can go up, but it also can go down. When you get into the other area, the insurance area, it's not so much affected by that stock market going up and down like that. So that's a mix of those two things might be something that you look at when you sit down and talk to Marc and say, I want to play a little bit over here, but I want to play a lot over here, or however you feel comfortable about that. And I think that's really important to show. Give Marc a call. Give a look on the website. Let's start talking about your retirement, what you want to do in your retirement. If you don't like that stock market and you don't like risk, that's okay. If you want to play a little bit in that market, that's fine. If you want to play a lot there, it's all customized to you. Our website, moretoretire.com. There's a place for you to put some information in there. Marc and the team will reach out to you. If you want to skip all that and just call and say, hey, I need a meeting, it's no cost, no obligation. 984-300-1984. Let's just get it all on the table. If you're worried about retirement, confused about it, don't know which way to go about it, get a meeting. And we'll do that for you at no charge. 984-300-1984. Well, we'll talk a lot about some studies and some surveys and things like that about retirement here on the show. And one of the places that you will commonly see that information coming from is the Center for Retirement Research in Boston. They do a lot. Alicia Manel is the director there, and they recently just asked her, what is the key to a successful retirement? And she said two words: don't retire. Okay. She said, the longer you can push this off, the longer you can push your Social Security off, you get a bigger payment on Social Security, the shorter amount of time you need to use your money, that will make probably for a successful retirement. But Mark, if I walk into your office and say, I'm interested to talk about retirement, and your words to me are, don't retire, I might be walking out and going someplace else. That's not really what I want to hear. I can't believe she said that, but in a way I understand it, but that's not the answer that a lot of people are willing to hear.
No, it's not. And let's just make it clear as day, okay? So don't retire? No, I don't use that. Don't retire. I use my website, More to Retire.
There you go.
Okay. Go to my website, moretoretire.com. Yes, we want to help you build more for retirement. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, no, don't retire. I think that's ridiculous. I think it's silly. This is why we do retirement planning, because it's a part of full comprehensive financial planning. It's a part of it. Estate planning is a part of all of that. Let's have this conversation about what you can do. And that's what I want to discuss with you, the positives, the things that I know that are in front of us. It's sort of like when in life you make a mistake. Oh, guess what? You're going to make another mistake later on. Yeah, it's not going to end, but that's how we learn. We learn from our mistakes. So if we take what we learn from our mistakes, we can move forward. So we might talk about the past in here because it's actually very important. I want to know about the past, and I want to know about the current. And then I want to go along with what we can do to move forward. So the three things we talk about and we focus on and we hone in on are the PIG method: preservation, income, and growth. We focus on those. We concentrate on them because what? Where are you at this stage in life? Are you still in accumulation, or are you in preservation/distribution? Because guess what? There's a huge difference. If you're in preservation and distribution, that means you're retired. If you're in accumulation, you might be getting to the point where you're close to preservation and distribution, so we might be getting a little bit more conservative. So a lot of times what we like to do is use the rule of 100. 100 minus your age. Let's say you're 60 years old. 100 minus 60 says maybe we could have 40% maybe in the market at risk, and the other 60% in some preservation tools, maybe some fixed index annuities or something with an income rider. Maybe you have some CDs, some treasuries, just some simple bank money. But essentially, us just preparing for this next stage. So if you have 5 or 10 years to go, we want to prepare for that stage. So don't retire? No. I am against that completely. More to retire.
There you go. Or I can see maybe not now, but a little bit later. I mean, think about the ways that those meetings could end. Yes, you can retire. Or yes, why aren't you retired right now? Or maybe not now. How about a year from now? How about 2 years from now? I mean, Mark, if you can give somebody a time frame, I mean, that at least gives them, I can see light at the end of the tunnel and I can do this. I mean, even if it was delayed and you say you can't do it right now, I still like that answer because you've given me a plan.
You got to see the light at the end of the tunnel, okay? And that's just how it's going to be. Here's the thing. I brought up a little earlier the difference with broker-dealers and registered investment advisors. I'll give you an example of a couple of BDs out there. You've got Edward Jones, you got Merrill Lynch. Those guys work for those firms, and they specifically do what those firms really want them to do, and there's some restrictions there. Now, I'll be honest, when you're independent and you work with a registered investment advisor firm, you certainly will have available to you pretty much any investment depending on what custodian you choose, right? So we choose Fidelity because we know they have the most assets under management. So we use Fidelity as our custodian, and that's fantastic. But with us, and as we work with Impact Partnership Wealth, which is our registered investment advisor firm, our intention is to understand the relationship they have with Market Guard. Market Guard is something they have in-house for just our advisors, and we use it because it can really help with a cost-efficient way of how you manage your money. And what we want to do is we ultimately want to run a report for folks, identify certain factors, and sometimes Market Guard models can work out well for our clients because we can get similar standard deviation or wobble to the S&P 500 and maybe reduce the beta, which is that risk factor that we talk about. So these are the things that we have and these conversations we have is this is totally possible. And when folks say, well, you know, what's your fee? Well, I'll just tell you this. We're not the cheapest. We're worth every penny.
One of the things about Market Guard is really a series of different portfolios with a different risk levels and a lot of different places that you can go in the market. And maybe a really simple way to say it is, how much do you want to be in the market? 10%? 20%, 30%, 40%. Figuring that all out, Market Guard has portfolios that kind of mirror what those needs are. We'd love to have the opportunity to talk to you about it. And if it's time to talk about your retirement, let's get that date on a calendar. And before the end of the year might be a really good time to do this because there's a bit of a window that closes on December 31st for some of the tax questions that you might have. You know, setting up something for next year to put yourself in a good position, not only for this April 15th, but for many April 15ths to come. Give it a look on the website, more2retire.com. There's a place for you to put some information in there, and Mark and the team will reach out to you. If you want to just give us a call, 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. Get a date on a calendar. Let's talk about your retirement and what you want to do. Put the money together with your dreams. 984-300-1984. All right, we talked about how most of us are going to come into retirement with a 401k or at least an IRA. And the rules on that are that you can just let that money sit and grow and do whatever it's doing. But at age 73 and soon age 75, Uncle Sam says, okay, we've let you do this tax-deferred thing long enough. Now we got to get a little bit of our tax money. So at 73, they start making you take money in a thing called an RMD, a required minimum distribution. Well, according to the people at JP Morgan, how many people just follow that? I'll get to 73, then I'll start taking that money. 80% of people are using Uncle Sam's plan. Now, Uncle Sam has a plan, yeah, but is it best for you? Should you have your plan? So what's the downside to waiting to 73 or even 75 now and then taking the money, or having an alternative plan, which would be your plan for your IRAs and your 401ks?
That is a loaded question, but I'll be honest with you. It's different for everyone. I had a gentleman call me the other day and said, hey, you moved $80K over for my wife from our IRA to our Roth. Can you move another 50? I figured out that this is what's going to keep me under these particular limits because, we have these conversations about IRMA and other things that come up, and we want to be able to make sure we have the clear answers for you so we can make sure that you're doing exactly what you want to do in retirement. So, yeah, of course, Roth conversions are great, right? That'll reduce what you have to do with RMDs. But what if you're saying to me, oh my gosh, Mark, but I'm already 70. I only have 3 years left to do this. Well, do it this year. Do it next year. Do it the year after. When you hit 73, take your RMD and do it again. You have to take your RMD first before doing a Roth conversion, but you can do it that way. So there's a lot of different ways to look at this, but I would say the earlier you get on board with something like that, if you don't necessarily need that amount of money in qualified money, it's a great way to turn around and make that a future tax-free situation, income tax-free situation, that is. Another way to look at this, and this is true. I mean, 80% of people are doing it Uncle Sam's way, the RMD way. What if you just took the RMD and you realize, you know what, I'm leaving my family a lot of money. So what if I just took some of my assets and I left them to a charity? Well, you can do that. And I would advise you, why not do an IRA, right? If you used an IRA for that, that's really not going to make Uncle Sam very happy. You've deferred that money for all those years, taking RMDs, you pass away, you left it to charity, and they're not going to pay taxes on that money. But it's another great, efficient way to pass on money. There's a lot of different ways to look at this, but one of the other things I bring up is if you have 10 years of work left in you, think about what you could do with life insurance. You can fund a life insurance policy, and what you can do is you can overfund it based on the cash value, but underneath what's called the modified endowment contract limit. And in the future, you could have available to you tax-free loans from the policy while still carrying life insurance on the policy. Now, it's not foolproof. I mean, you have to do your due diligence, work with the proper agent, follow it, track it, make sure things are working properly. But essentially, we like to call that the Roth IRA on steroids because there's no limit to what you can contribute that way. So there's several different ways you could do this. Then, on top of that, if you're determined that you have to take RMDs and nothing else and no conversions and all that, have you thought of the idea of taking your required minimum distribution and buying a life insurance policy with that? Because what will happen is you could potentially offset some of the taxable events when you pass away to your beneficiaries. That's another great way to look at it because the life insurance benefit is income tax free. So these are several different ways and angles that we can take a look at these things, but ultimately it has to align with what we want to do for you, which is preservation, income, and distribution. And under all those, what are we going to preserve at this stage in your life? Income-wise, how much income do you need, and how are taxes and inflation going to impact that? And then growth. How can we get good, sensible growth and allocate you properly in different areas?
It is interesting how we watch that stock market and then we go to our 401k and then we look in there and say, ooh, the balance is going up. And that's a good thing. And you kind of celebrate that. Oh, I made it to million. I made it 7 figures now. I made it to 1.5. You know who else is really happy about that? Uncle Sam, cheering you the whole way, going, yeah, let that balance go up. Because you know what? The bigger that balance is, the bigger the tax bite that Uncle Sam's going to take when you hit 73. So this is where we've done stories on the show where somebody gets to 73 and they go, holy cow, my RMD is $75,000 or more, and they don't know what to do with the money. And it's just a big tax problem. So before that happens to you, if most of your money, most of your savings is in a 401k or an IRA or a 403b, something like that, this could happen in your future. Before it does, let's do the math on it. Let's figure out if that's going to happen to you. And if it is, what can we do about it right now? MoreToRetire.com is our website. Go there, take a look around, look at Marc's 5 steps to more. What happens when you walk through the door? We're going to go through that in just a few minutes here. But give Marc a call, get a date on a calendar. Let's do the math on your retirement. 984-300-1984, a no-cost, no-obligation meeting. 984-300-1984. Let's figure out where your income is coming from, what your growth needs to be, what your preservation ideas are. You may go into this and say, I've saved this. Marc, don't lose a penny. Okay? Let's start there. Whatever you want to talk about. MoreToRetire.com or 984-300-1984. Now, when it comes to advisors and their clients, we've talked many times about how sometimes there's a bit of a disconnect there. There's a study that talked to 6,000 people in retirement, and then they talked to about 600 advisors that were connected to those people. They asked the advisors, what is your acceptable level of risk? And they said, well, we could lose 30% of the money as long as there's a real upside on the other side to recover and to grow. They asked the clients, you and me, how do you feel about losing money in retirement? And they said, I only feel good about 15%, even if the upside is 50%. For the growth. So they don't like the idea of losing money. I mean, who does? But Marc, here you've got a distinct disconnect between what the advisor feels and what the client feels. How do you go about that conversation and find a good place where you're both in tandem?
Well, it's important to ask questions, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Truthfully, I mean, that's where it all starts. We sit down and we're sitting at the conference table. I want to know about your past and your present, because I want to understand the objectives for the future by understanding who you are. You might not be able to share with me the information exactly the way I might hear it. So I have to ask question after question after question to understand it. And then when we get down to it, we try to assess what's going to be the best possible situation for you. Well, let me give you an example. If you tell me you don't want as much risk as what the advisor is offering you currently, right, in terms of what we looked at, in terms of the wobble effect of the up and down, that's fine. Let's understand to what level we're talking about. So let's say you're in the accumulation phase of your life. Let's say you're 55 years old. Let's say you do want to retire at 65. It's because you like your job and you're comfortable doing it and you want to do it for another 10 years and you want to make it really simple where you can turn on Social Security at 65 and at the same time you could turn on Medicare, right? For ease of use purposes. Mm-hmm. So a lot of folks will look at it that way. I get it. Okay. So let's have this conversation. Did you know there are things out there called structured notes? Structured notes have ways of doing buffers or barriers. Now, those two things are different. A buffer is where the bank that borrows your money on a structured note will take the first amount of loss. Let's just say in this case, the buffering is 20%. The bank's saying, we'll take the first 20% loss. And if you ended up losing 30% for that period of time, let's say it's 1 or 2 years, then we'll only give you that 10% loss, that additional 10% loss to the 20%.
Okay.
The difference with the barrier is sometimes a barrier might be a little higher. Maybe it's 30%. Well, if your account drops 40%, you're going to actually lose 40%. But if your account drops 30, you won't lose any. Okay. So the barrier is, hey, we'll protect you up to this amount, but if it breaks that barrier, you're going to lose all of that. Okay. That's the difference between the two. Structured notes have these things built in. And what I think is effective about it is it can break up correlation in a portfolio, but it can also give you the potential for growth or maybe decent coupon rates. If you're looking for income, that could be something completely different than what you're doing now that's stuck in a CD or wherever else it might be. So that's another way you can have some protective barriers. The other way is an annuity. And it's funny because with annuities, you have the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it's simply put, what we do is we'll use a software. We'll go into the software that shows us all the products known to man out there, and we identify certain things about the products through the software, and we answer questions that way. Because we want to determine if you're right for an annuity, what type of annuity you're right for, whether it's for preservation tactics or whether it's for income tactics, whether it's for preservation with regards to making sure you keep up with the rate of inflation, what are taxes going to do? We want to be able to answer those questions for you, and we'll bring in the professionals we need to, whether it's a CPA or whether it's a tax attorney, whatever it might be. Estate planning will bring in the attorneys as well. We want to be able to answer those questions. So the question is, how much risk can you deal with? I'll give you another way to look at it too. If we want to run a financial report for you, it's a Morningstar report. It identifies several things for us. I mentioned this earlier, standard deviation, beta. Those are two really important ones. Why? They're really important because it helps us understand the potential growth based on that, what we call that wobble, right? If you're picking individual stocks, they could have high standard deviations. And when you break that down into a Morningstar report, it gives us an overall standard deviation. S&P standard deviation usually hovers around a 15. I know it has a broad range, right? But S&P has a fixed beta of 1.0. NASDAQ has a fixed beta of 1.1. So when I see somebody come to me, and let's say they have a standard deviation of around a 12 or a 13, but their beta is 1.05, that just tells me they have less wobble than the S&P, but yet somehow they have more risk than the S&P. Mm-hmm. And this is another conversation we want to have because is this the type of risk you're looking to take? And when I take all of these different things into account, I want to identify if you do need an annuity, do you need one now or do you need one later? And is it for income? Because people like to use lifetime income riders to provide for income because maybe they don't have the pension. They're worried about their 401k balance. Every one of these things are important, and this needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed immediately.
I got two questions for you. Number one, pretty simple. When we read these articles, a lot of times they mention things in percentages, and they did in this article. How do you feel about a 15% loss? How do you feel about a 30% loss? And when we talk in percentages, it just doesn't hit home. But when you talk about actual numbers, if you have $1 million, 30% is $300,000. When you look at somebody and say 30%, they go, yeah, I can handle that. Are you sure? Can you lose $300,000? Does that make it real to them and kind of make their eyes go, okay, now I hear what you're talking about. I don't want that. Does that kind of make it alive to people?
Yes. So it's funny, the reactions of people where you could have made 30% or you could have lost 30%. Because when they see you could have made 30%, they're like, they seem content, right? They make this face of content. But when we look at the 30% loss, they're like, ooh, like the little frowny face. It doesn't look or sound so good.
Right.
Well, when you're playing with market money and you haven't seen a correction in the market in 16 years, you ought to know there is risk involved. And you know what? If you have a correction, a real correction's at least 20%, and it's a consistent correction. And if you go through a recession, we know what the last two recessions did. From 2000 to 2002, S&P high to low was a drop of 49%. And S&P high to low 2007 to 2009 was a drop of 56.5%. Now, if we haven't had a correction in 16 years, and I'm not saying we're going to have one, and I'm not saying we're going to go through a recession, but every one of these factors matter. I mean, they're trying to lower interest rates right now because they realize that inflation got out of control, and they don't want us to keep going through inflation. It went massive, but that was partly to do with government heads always constantly working with the Fed to make sure they kept the rate so low for so long that we just got crushed with inflation all at once. Inflation's supposed to happen over time. So we need to prepare ourselves for these things. So ultimately for me, I want to understand what level of risk you're taking, how much risk you need to take at this point in your life, where you want to put your money, how you want to put it in preservation tactics, how you want to build for your income for your future, how do we plan for taxes and inflation. Every one of these things come up because it's full comprehensive planning. If you come in my office and you just think I'm some money manager, that's not how it works here. We put together plans, they're customizable, and we want to assist you as much as we can. And if you're getting close to retirement, you ought to consider how much you want to preserve right now at this point.
As Mark was going through that there's something key that you need to know. These drops of 40% are really a once-in-a-generation kind of a thing. It should be something that either doesn't happen or maybe happens once in your lifetime. But we, baby boomers, have had two of them happen in the last 25 years. We're a little jumpy when it comes to the stock market. I don't blame you at all. And the way things are now, we can see it happen again. So if you're jumpy about the stock market and you're jumpy about risk and you don't want to play in that ballpark, that's okay. Let's get that out on the table. Give Mark a call. Let's do the math on your retirement. Get your bead on how you feel about politics and the markets and all that goes on out there. And how much preservation do you want? You may walk in and say, I've saved $1.2 million. I don't want it to go below that ever. Okay, let's start there. MoreToRetire.com is the website. MoreToRetire.com. There's a place for you to put some information in there. Mark's team will reach out to you. Or you could just reach out to us right now. It's 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984 for a no-cost, no-obligation meeting about your retirement. Let's start to do your retirement math. We're going to take a break. When we come back, you've heard of TIAA. We got the head of TIAA saying what she believes should be your two big priorities as you get ready for retirement. And they kind of go right along with what Mark says every single week. We'll have it for you next on the Marc Osler Retirement Experience.
A simple piece of paper. It's something we use every day. For the most part, it does what it's designed to do. It sits there flat on your desk as a placeholder for information. But with a couple strategic folds, suddenly your flat piece of paper becomes an airplane and flies across the room. Your 401k is kind of like that flat piece of paper. It just sits there as a placeholder for your money. Marc Osler can show you those strategic moves to take your 401k from just sitting there to creating the income you need for retirement. Call today for a free no-obligation meeting. 984-300-1984. That's 984-300-1984. Or online at moretoretire.com.
Welcome back to the Marc Osler Retirement Experience. Online, moretoretire.com. Go to the website today. You'll see Mark's 5 steps to more. And if you don't have all of that together on your retirement, it's time to really get down to it. Let's put the pencil to the paper. 984-300-1984 is Mark's number to sit down and talk about your retirement. Okay, TIAA. Most people have heard of that. It is basically the Teachers Insurance and Annuity Association. These are, as a teacher gets a pension, it's probably through TIAA. That's what this is all about. So Courtney Gibson is the CEO at TIAA. She was just recently on one of the financial networks on CNBC. And she says these are supposed to be your priorities as you get ready for retirement.
Hey, you don't have to understand every nuance of the Sharpe ratio or what asset allocation means, but how do you make sure that you're making the right choices today to set yourself up in the future for success? And what protection in their portfolio can help them to do to ensure that at least they know how they're going to pay their bills. At least they know they're going to have their minimum needs met, whether they live to 80, 90, or we have some people we're paying that are 106 years old. To live long and not have to worry about where the money's coming from, I'd sign up for that any day of the week.
Sounds a lot like what we talk about every week. She talked about preservation and she talked about income. So there's the P in the I of pig. And so let's talk a little bit about that. Preservation, I mean, that does go toward the risk conversation that we've been talking about as well. The income conversation. I'm walking away from my employer's paycheck, and now, Mark, I'm depending on you to tell me how to develop that income in retirement. When that part of the conversation is over, do you find people kind of relax a little bit and say, oh my gosh, I need $7,000 a month, and he's telling me I got $7,000 a month and a little left over? That's got to be a good moment in that meeting.
Yeah, most of the time, I would say that's the case. There are people that still push back on me from time to time and say, hey, are you sure about this? Are you sure that this is what's going to happen? And I say to them, well, if you pick this and this, yes, I'm sure. But I had a client that came in, became a client of mine over 2 years ago. And then we were just trying to determine next steps about some other things, because if you know our process, the more we're always looking for adjustments and changes and switches over the years to see if we needed to adjust or switch or change anything. And she had 3 different TIAs, and these particular annuities were all taken out at different times during her career. And the one that was the oldest, we looked at. And we called TIA and got information to just understand and make sure that we had all the information in front of us. When it came down to it, the oldest one that she had, it was a best case scenario for us to use that in our income plan. So she had picked an annuity with me where we did an income rider, okay? And that was based on a Roth IRA, so we knew that she would have tax-free income from that. And then we just figured this TIA could dump into that as part of the income plan. So in a lot of different situations, we're just trying to look for certain solutions for folks, and income is right at the top of the list, because don't you want to know how much you're going to make in retirement? Isn't that important to you? I mean, I think it's important to me, and then we want to relate how that's going to affect us with regards to inflation and taxes. And then also, it's preservation. Those annuities, those are fixed annuities, but if you have fixed or fixed indexed or let's say multi-year guarantee or even immediate annuity, all of those things are on the insurance side of the business. I mentioned earlier today, variable annuities. These are not variable annuities we're talking about. These are on the fixed side. They're insurance regulated, and they have certain pluses for folks about preservation.
I think that when you take a new job in your life, that's one of the first questions you have, even before you go on the interview. What does this thing pay? That's the one thing you want to know first. How much am I going to get paid for this job? You're about to go into a new job. It's called retirement. You should know what you get paid, and that's going to be Social Security. And then what? Let's give you the answer to the and then what. Do you have a pension? Okay, that's part of it. But if you don't have a pension, what does that 401k mean? That IRA mean? What is it going to pay you per month, and how? Marc talks about dividend paying stocks. That's one way to get paid in retirement. There are others. These are the questions I think that most of us want answered, and let's get them answered for you. Give Marc a call. Let's talk through this. 984-300-1984 is the number. 984-300-1984. This is a no-cost, no-obligation meeting, really to just get to know you, find out what you've done for retirement, and what you want to do in retirement. Let's put the money with the dreams. 984-300-1984. All right, so we're a week away here from Thanksgiving, and I think it's interesting, Marc. I mean, this is at my house. My wife is up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and there's plates clanking in the kitchen and there's stuff going on. And then I wake up, I don't know what time, let's call it 8:30. And then I kind of fumble my way down to the couch, and when's the football start? Then the football starts and we're all into that. And then somebody says, food's ready. And we go out there to this wonderful display. I kind of like Thanksgiving.
I love it.
But when you think about that Thanksgiving table, there's all sorts of different things on it. And when you think about a retirement plan, there's a lot of elements and ingredients that go into that as well. So if we make the metaphor here, you look at your plate and you've got your meat and potatoes. The main part of your Thanksgiving meal is right there. Mark, what is the main course, the meat and potatoes of the retirement planning process? If you were to put it on a plate, what would you say?
All right. So let's get a little descriptive here. So for me, my wife always wants me to do the turkey because from my family, we got this Martha Stewart recipe.
Okay.
And basically, you butter up the turkey, salt and pepper, get the stuffing ready, stuff the bird, right? And then we take cheesecloth and put it over the majority of the turkey, maybe 3/4 of it,
okay,
covering all the legs, right? But first what we do is we take it and we put it in a combination of Kerrygold butter and Chardonnay, and then we drench it and put it over the turkey. Lay the turkey in the oven, and there's a method of every 30 minutes, basically, basting this sucker in Chardonnay and butter constantly, and then checking the temp to make sure it's cooked perfectly for those last 30 minutes, because you turn it around and hit it really hard at the end. What'll happen is you'll have this turkey that comes out of the oven that, I wait about 45 minutes before I carve it up, because you want to give it some time. You can actually wait longer than an hour because it's so hot when it comes out. But you want to make sure you get it out of the juices and into a safe place, because when you get it into a safe place, the ultimate thing is, how juicy is that sucker going to be? How brown is that skin? And how good is that thing going to be, right?
I think I've gained a pound just listening to this.
Oh, my goodness. Martha Stewart is a smart woman, okay?
Okay. All right, you're gonna Martha Stewart this retirement plan. Tell me about this.
It's fantastic. So
okay.
The turkey for me is, what is it for you? What is the turkey for you? Well, for me, it's my favorite thing, my favorite part of the meal, and everything else is an accompaniment, even though I love mashed potatoes and I love all of those things. So for me, the meat for you is figuring out your income in retirement. Yep. That's really important. So the meat of it is, where's the income coming from? Because if I could figure out where the income's coming from, then everything else is going to be gravy. We figure everything else out. Boy, that was pretty good for a pun, right?
I would say he did something there. I don't know if you caught it, folks. But that's the filler. That's what's going to fill you up, is that income in your retirement years. But as we all have, we got to have those sides that are going around the other part of the plate. You got, for me, it's the sweet potatoes with the marshmallows on top, a little bit green bean casserole, maybe some of that corn, that kind of stuff. Okay, what are the sides in a retirement plan that kind of augment or complement that turkey and gravy, that income that we talk about?
So when we figuring out, that turkey, that income, right, it could come from several different places. So you could have had a pension. You might be set up with a situation where we have to build something like an annuity with a lifetime income rider. It could come from several different places. It could come from life insurance, like we talked about before. But inside of this income, you have these sides. Well, those sides are, what are the taxes? What are the taxable events that are going to occur?
Okay.
And then the other sides, so now you got your mashed potatoes and you got your gravy. Then you might have your green bean casserole over here. Well, that's inflation, right? It tastes really good when you're prepared for inflation. Right?
Okay.
And we want to make sure that we're prepared for that. So are we preserving our money enough around the income? So that's the other point. When we're talking about income, it works with preservation. We talked about PIG in here, preservation, income, and growth. The growth is going to work itself out just by itself. It's going to be the dessert. The growth is the dessert. So what you're having, whether it's pumpkin pie or whatever it could be that folks love as dessert for Thanksgiving. but all the sides that you're preparing for have to build around the income, and that has to do with preservation tactics. You might have to put some annuities in your situation for preservation. You might have to do that for income. We can build a portfolio around preservation based on the growth as well. So we watch the growth happen if we preserve and we have proper income tools.
Well, you may have to take a break now to go get some food. I don't know, because we've talked a lot about Thanksgiving today. But to build that great Thanksgiving meal, it takes a lot of different ingredients. To build a retirement portfolio, it does the same thing. And for most of us, we know stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. That's what we know. Or 401k, Social Security, a pension, maybe? All right. Well, there's some things that we know that are ingredients in a retirement plan, and there's probably some others that we don't. And that's why you would go to Marc, is to find out what rounds out your retirement plate. Give us a call. Give it a look at our website, moretoretire.com. moretoretire.com. Just spell it right out. You can learn more about Marc and his team and sit down and talk about your retirement. Let's do that no cost, no obligation meeting. You're probably pretty curious. Am I ready for this? Am I ready for retirement? Is my money ready for retirement? Let's find out. 984-300-1984. All right, so you may look at the world right now and go, what a mess. There's just, everywhere you look, it's just a mess. This comedian, his name is Derek Stropp, he says the same thing. Live it up.
Listen, you should be eating whatever you want. The world's on fire. If you watch the news and go, I'll take a kale salad, you're sick in the head, man. There's no better time than now to put gravy on your salad. I'm serious. Out here eating healthy, you got people exercising. I think that's crazy too. You want to live to be 100 to see how this movie ends? You got problems, man.
It's all about the food today. That's okay. But this is the time of year to do it. All right. I got to believe, Marc, that there's people that walk in your office and they want to talk about retirement, but what they mostly talk about is politics and the global stage and the economy and the interest rates. And I mean, there's just so much to get upset about right now. Once that's out of the way, and maybe you sit down and you can show people, hey, it's all good here. You can retire. Does some of that just kind of disappear a little bit? Can the weight come off their shoulders a little bit about this?
Yes. Oh, yes, it does. That's one of the biggest factors about retirement is, am I ready for it? Is the income going to be enough? Well, it could be as simple as paying off a debt. I have a client that he's nervous about selling this one property. He had a situation where he has different parks, and he's selling this one in particular, and he's nervous about it because he services it, he gets income from it, and so on and so forth. So what is our objective? Our objective is to try and show him how he can derive income passively from this so he doesn't have to manage it anymore, because he's gotten to the point where physically it's a little bit more difficult, right? So these are the types of conversations we have. If you have a 401k just sitting there and you're 59 and a half, or you're younger than that, but you don't work at that same place anymore, we need to have a conversation, because that plan is restricted. And what we want to do is look at what it could open you up to. If you're young enough, maybe we look at accumulation. If you're getting close to retirement, maybe we look at a combination of accumulation, preservation, and distribution. Distribution has to do with distributing it during your lifetime and then eventually to the people past you. So I do agree. We were talking about, do you want to live to 100? A lot of people don't want to live to 100. Some people do. Well, let's have that conversation, but let's prepare for what if you did live to 100? How can we make sure that the income is there for you? You're prepared for inflation. You're prepared for taxes. And you might need to use some preservation tactics to do that in the future or right now for your future. And if you do that, maybe you have a plan in place, and that's what we want to do here. So when you come in, we identify everything about where your money's at now and maybe what you should do differently so we can get you to that place when you decide to retire. So if you're like 58 years old, you want to retire at 65, let's get you prepared now for 7 years from now.
Yeah, I think that most people want to travel somehow in retirement, go on a cruise, go to Alaska, go to Hawaii, do all that stuff. We want you to do that too. But I don't want you watching financial news while you're in Hawaii. and wondering if the market is cooperating with you while you're on your Hawaiian trip. That's not the kind of retirement that you want. No, you want you to turn that off and enjoy yourself and make memories in retirement. That's the idea. That's what you've been saving for. Let's give you that freedom in your retirement years, that kind of confidence in your retirement years. MoreToRetire.com is the website. Check that out today. Learn more about Marc and the team. Time for a meeting about your retirement. Let's get to it. 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. Get a date on the calendar. Let's talk through your retirement. This is a no obligation, no cost meeting. Let's give you a good look at what you've done, what it's going to do for you monthly in retirement, give you that preservation, income, and growth, and figure that all out. And once you get there, it's not like that's it, but that is a main bulk of what everybody should know about your retirement. Let's get you at least that information. 984-300-1984 or MoreToRetire.com. Have a great weekend. We will be here next weekend. We hope you will be too on the Marc Osler Retirement Experience.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Marc Osler Retirement Experience. Marc Osler Retirement Experience is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth LLC, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Marc Osler Retirement Experience are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Investing involves risks, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing carrier. This radio podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be considered as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Marc Osler Retirement Experience is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute legal or tax advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein are provided by third parties that have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Marc Osler Retirement Experience. Market Guard is a firm that provides investment signals as well as portfolio allocation recommendations for a wide variety of model portfolios. Market Guard does not offer advice or enter into fiduciary relationships. Please remember that converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. Increased taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA.